Boom, chaka laka laka, boom, chaka laka laka. It's lunch day. It's lunch day for the Wickedly Smart Women book, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, and Transforming Worlds. Absolutely amazing book with incredible stories from 17 women from around the world. And you're going to really love these interviews. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're going to be introducing you to some of the authors. Hey, y'all. My name is Linda Sunshine West. I'm the founder and CEO of Action Takers Publishing. So excited about today's book, Wickedly Smart Women. When I first found out about doing this book, it was through the process of meeting the person who's in charge of it, the leader of the pack, Angel B. Hartwell. And I met her on her podcast, Wickedly Smart Women, of the same name. So I'm going to bring Angel up right now. She's going to talk about the genesis of the book, how it came to be, and then just a little bit about like how she met these different authors to bring them into the book. Okay, so let's welcome Angel B. Hartwell, 8 times award-winning podcast host of the Wickedly Smart Women podcast. Angel, so excited to have you here and to be doing this project with you, because it has definitely been an awesome labor of love for both of us, my team, your team, and some of the things that you and I learned, not only about each other, but about ourselves during this process, has been absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for putting this together, and excited to have you. Why don't you tell the audience like how this whole thing came about?
Sure. Well, so I actually was in the personal and professional development space. I've been in that space now I'm on my 16th year. And for 10 years, I actually served people all around the world, mostly women, helping them to feel great speaking and powerful asking for money. And then in 2018, I had, after a major life rupture, which is chronicled in my chapter, Change Your Name, Change Your Life. After a major life rupture, I got guided. I had to trust my intuition, and I listened to start serving men, which was really interesting, wasn't on my radar. And as a result of that, started my first podcast, which was the Men on Purpose podcast. And I did that podcast for about a year, and then was inspired to start Wickedly Smart Women, because even though I was serving men and I had clients coming in the front door during that period, I had plenty of women still knocking on my back door wanting to work with me. So I decided to start the Wickedly Smart Women podcast. And within one day, the show was ranked at number 75 and was on the international charts. And then within, like even before the book, the podcast launched, I had my first 5-figure payday. And so as it became clear to me that the podcast, Wickedly Smart Women, was succeeding exponentially more than the Men on Purpose podcast, I made the decision to sell my first show. And did that in 2020, and since then have been just building this brand. And then you and I met in year 2, I think 2.5 of the show, and it became clear pretty quickly after our time together, both during your interview as well as after the interview, as we went through the negotiation process, that a collaborative book was going to give more women more opportunities for their stories to be shared. Because the way I have the podcast set up, it's once a week. It's a once a week show, 52 episodes a year with a few little bonuses here and there. And there were like hundreds and hundreds, now, heading into the thousands of people who wanted to have their voices heard and their stories heard. So now it's really clear that this is the first book, and it's already a bestseller, but it is not by any stretch of the imagination going to be the last. So
that's for sure. We're already working on ideas for the next two books, actually. We're working behind the scenes to make that happen. One of them is Wickedly Smart Women. We're sticking with that brand. But that one is called Wickedly Smart Women. Oh my gosh. Angel, please help me.
I'll say it. Wickedly Smart Women, channeling wisdom, creating wealth, and changing worlds.
There it is.
So yeah. And we talked earlier today about there's a difference between trusting your intuition and then channeling what it is that you are here to deliver into the world, your contribution that is coming into the world. It's like a second level of spiritual growth, of experiential growth, of commitment to your mission. And so the channeling wisdom, creating wealth, and changing worlds book is like a exponential, we're going to say it's exponential, beyond the trusting intuition, taking action, and transforming worlds subtitle of today's book.
Today's book, the book we're here to talk about today. But before, I would be remiss in not inviting you to check it out. The book that we have coming up, Wickedly Smart Women, channeling the wisdom. So you would go to actiontakerspublishing.com/WSW. That book is going to be a USA Today and New York Times, not New York Times. I did not say that. Wall Street Journal. I know. That's right. We're going to manifest that, but as far as the guarantee, Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling books. So if that's something you're interested in, check us out over there. But today we're here to talk about the Wickedly Smart Women, trusting intuition, taking action, transforming worlds. And before we bring our first two guests up onto the screen, I wanted to invite you to first go to our website and get your $3,000 plus worth of free gifts at the website, actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. And then when you hit there, you're going to see a bunch of different flags for different countries. Click on the flag that is your country and go purchase the book. It's 99 cents US on Kindle. And that's what we're looking for you. Just go ahead and purchase that copy. Also, if you want to give it away, there's an option there for you to click that says, buy it for others. And you can give the book away to other people, 99 cents each. So with that said, Angel, we're going to bring up our first two guests, which are Jacqueline Ryan and Sally Green. So I'd love for you to introduce. Angel does an amazing job at introducing people. I wish I had her on all of my shows to introduce everybody. No pressure, Angel. But I'd love for you to introduce Jacqueline Ryan, and we're going to bring her up on the screen here.
All right. Well, Jacqueline is somebody that I actually met through being an icon, not an icon, but a member of the press at the National Publicity Summit. And she ended up coming up on my show. And I love Jacqueline's no nonsense approach to the challenges that she has faced with her dad and with her mom through the caregiving landscape, and her willingness to be incredibly devoted and incredibly committed to helping others to avoid what she had to go through. She actually has her own book, Caregivers, Scare Takers. And whenever I run into somebody in my own circles who is facing the requirement to bring a caregiver into their home, I immediately send them to Jackie's book. And so she has joined us and contributed a fabulous chapter to our book in the intention to advance that messaging that she already has in place and the ways that she's already serving. So thanks so much for being here with us, Jackie. We're so delighted that you're part of our party.
Thank you, Angel. It's a great day. Yes.
Yeah, so excited to talk to you about your chapter, how you got involved with what we're doing and what you're up to. But before that, we're going to bring on Sally. So would you like to introduce Sally from your perspective, or you want me to introduce her?
Oh, I don't know. I think I'll do the best that I can, and then maybe you pick up the mic too. Okay.
Okay.
So let me talk about Sally. Sally has been that presence in this process for me of this is just a visual I'm kind of getting of Sally. It's like that beautiful presence that is there and making sure everything is perfect and all of the authors are taken care of. And it's just such a profound mothering presence that Sally has brought to our group here. And I'm just super grateful. And I am so grateful that she decided to not only be on the team that's bringing the book to life, but also a contributor and a co-author. And she brought a phenomenal chapter in. And so we're just so grateful for your presence, Sally. Like, presence with a capital P. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's like the font type is like 75. Okay, that's the P that you get. So I'll do just a brief introduction of Sally. I met Sally about 2 years ago through a different collaboration book. We were both in this collaboration book. There were about 150 authors. And Sally did something that all people should do in collaboration books, but not all of us, myself included, do. She reached out to every single author in that book to have a conversation. Hey, I see we're in the same book. Let's get to know each other. And I was one of those authors. So Sally reached out to me, and then we ended up just really hitting it off. She joined my women's mastermind, and then I invited her to be in a couple of the books that I was putting together at that time. And she joined both, and she just like full feet in and jumped into everything. And it's what I love about Sally the most. Well, Sally is the vice president of author development at Action Takers Publishing. And what I love about her most is that her willingness to just be like, okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. And it's funny because I just assumed she was already doing some of the things she is now doing just because of her willingness to jump in and say, I'll do it. And she just figures things out. So welcome, Sally. So glad to have you on the team and so honored and blessed. You know, we're all blessed to have you.
Thank you so much. It's just great to be here. And, you know, I was listening this morning and I'm like, wow, you know, it's just so great to be part of this community of women and to be part of this project. And I'm just loving this. So thank you. Thank you to Angel and thank you to Linda for just putting this all together. And it's just been a blessing to me.
Awesome. Well, we're of course glad to have you here. Excited to have you here. So what I want to do first is I wanted to bring up your chapter titles, and Jackie, yours is first. The chapter title for you is Relationships, Manipulations, and Questions. Dun, dun, dun. So, okay, I just want to hear, like, what is that chapter title all about? So share with us.
Well, relationships, I believe that, you know, we spend a lot of our lives trying to find the mate, the one of our life. And we almost just hop from one to the other, trying to figure out the right mate. And I believe if we would listen and trust our gut instinct and try not to make it work and just, hey, if it's not going to work, just move on. So that's part of the relationship chapter. The manipulations, yes, does relate to the caregiving aspect of the loved ones. And it was when intuition did kick in, albeit a few years too late. But nonetheless, for the caregiving aspect, manipulations that happen behind closed doors of any loved one, not only senior care, but for daycare, for disabled, for the teens in a facility, for the seniors. I was hearing stories yesterday of it was ranked number 5. Now it's a 4-star, and there's different reasons for that. And it's like, okay, that's going to be my next battleground. So, you know, when people are paying good money, expect to have the best care, and the family doesn't know what kind of care is really being offered or not offered to their loved ones. Let's shine the light on it. So that's some of the manipulations. And then the questions, just questions about life, questions of our history, questions that, you know, who did kill JFK? Or, you know, was Twin Towers an inside job or not? So, you know, yeah, is it conspiracy theory or not? You know, who knows? Just questions to be posed, though. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
I love that. Thank you so much. And she did pose some of those questions at the end of her chapter, which really gets you, the idea is not to read the question. The idea is to read the question and ask the question of yourself so that you come up with your own response to that. So thank you so much for that. And Angel? Oh, you're muted.
I'm back. Here we go.
Okay.
So Jackie, so one of the things that's really interesting about your work and your chapter, I mean, you started your chapter off with relationships and you call it relationships, manipulations, and questions. You know, I think for you and what I got out of our connection with one another is it does come down to how deeply are you willing to go in vetting your relationships with people who are maybe outside of your circle
Sure.
and really being in that place of questioning, is this a good fit? Is this right for my family member? And also being in those relationships with your family members so that there's communication and that you can also trust your own intuition when things feel off and be willing to confront when things feel off. So I wanted to ask you, when we approached you with this book opportunity, you and I already have a little bit of a relationship going. I'd love to hear what within you and what of our already established relationship inspired you to say yes and be a contributor.
What inspired me, Angel, is I have a innate belief that we're here to help others. And if everybody was not all about me, if it'd be about others, then that's what would make a better world. And I believe working in contributing this chapter and these wonderful women that have contributed, that we're here to help one another. And if I had this kind of book when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, it would give me a better direction of how I need to go. And you mentioned the word confronting, like in manipulations. And I believe that sometimes women would just it's just, you can't believe what's going on. Either one, you don't know. Two, then you can't believe what's going on. Three, you don't have the support to do it. And I hope that through our chapters that it gives the reader more confidence about themselves and direction of how they need to move through their life journey.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for sharing that perspective, because everybody's going to get something different out of reading the book depending on where they are in their own lives. But it's really about picking it up and diving in. And so definitely we're talking about the book Wickedly Smart Women, Transforming Worlds.
Trusting intuition. Linda, I have to just speak for Linda here for a moment. Linda
Please.
is actually on the back end of COVID. And, I want you to know, Linda, that we want you to take a nice deep breath and take care of yourself here. The book's title is Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, and Transforming Worlds. And Linda, please take a nice deep cleansing breath.
I will. When I mute myself and I don't cough while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes, you are. Yes, you
yeah.
are.
So this book is it's an incredible, compilation of stories from women, 17 women from all over the world sharing their stories of that trusting intuition. And, Sally has her chapter in the book. It's called Dreams Don't Work Unless You Do. So Sally, I would love for you to share with us, what does that mean to you? And, I've known Sally for now, a little over 2 years or so. And when I saw this chapter title come across, I was surprised because I thought it was going to be about something completely different. And so I think she flipped on me in the last minute. So Sally, why don't you share with us about this chapter title, what it means to you, and how did you come up with that?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I realized was that, in order for me to go after my dreams and to find my purpose and to finally do stuff, I had to take action. I had to do something and get to work on myself. And it started with working on me. And I realized that, I was a mess. I needed to do something for me to propel me forward. and because otherwise I was in this Groundhog Day, and where it was day in and day out doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it wasn't until I stopped and said, okay, I'm going to do something different. And I started working on, and you know, I talk about self-care, and my self-care is nothing about the outside. I'm not talking about going to the spa or getting your nails done or getting your hair. The self-care I'm talking about is that deep inner spiritual being that needs that nurturing. And so, you know, it was meditating more. It was shutting the TV off and taking online classes. It was listening to audiobooks and self-help books. Again, that's something that I had put off for 20 something years. So it's your dreams aren't going to happen unless you get to work on them, unless you get to work on, and it starts with self-love. It starts with self-care. And then all those opportunities opened up. It, you know, when I started doing that, then, you know, here these opportunities started showing up, and I got the opportunity to be in a collaboration book. And I was like, all right, let's go. You know, I've been on a spiritual journey for the last 17 years. And you know, growing spiritually has been a big part of that. And so so this kind of just all wove together, came together, and just you know, and meeting Linda and doing the whole publishing stuff. So it's, you know, it all comes down to, you know, dreams don't work unless you do, unless you get to work on you, unless you get to work on the things that you want, you know, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
well,
so good.
yeah, that's beautiful. You know, one of the things that just kind of popped in as Linda was saying, you know, she saw your chapter and she's like, what? Something that I got clear about right at the beginning of this year is that we do actually need to look deeper. And we've come over the last 20 years through a period where a lot of people have been waking up spiritually. A lot of people have been activated. A lot of people are finally like tapping into their intuition and really deepening and widening their spiritual experiences, but it doesn't necessarily show to the outside world. And what's beautiful about this compilation of stories is when anyone is given the opportunity to share their story, I think, at least for me, and tell me if this has been true, or if this was true for you, Sally, it's like you get that blank page and you're like, I have an opportunity here to expose a part of myself that I might not otherwise be exposing. So I'd love to have you talk about what made you decide to write about what you wrote about, and even surprise your, you know, partner in crime here, Linda.
Yeah, well, you know, and I think that's, you know, part of being vulnerable, and part of putting yourself out there. And that's something I struggle with. You know, I made a Facebook post just the other day, and I talked about my mom, and I really struggled with putting that out there because I don't like to share a lot of the inner stuff that I'm dealing with. And so it's stepping out of that comfort zone and doing things, you know, things I've learned from Linda, you know, it's in doing things that scare me, and doing things that I would normally not have done because, you know, because I don't want, I don't know if you know, it may not be that I don't want the criticism. It may be just that maybe I don't want to share that part of me right now, or maybe I don't want other people to know that what I'm struggling with. And so, you know, you kind of hide that, you kind of put that down, and you just keep going, you know, because life happens. And that's one of the things I write about in my book is, you know, life happens, and we get so caught up in the day-to-day activities that we don't focus on what it is we really should be focusing on, and we lose track of who we are because we're not tapping into that spiritual side of us. So I think that that's so important.
Yeah, you know, something that came to mind when you said, you know, life happens, because there's the saying, you know, life happens for us, right? And I know sometimes it doesn't always feel like life is happening for us, that it could feel like it's happening to us at the moment. But then later on down the line, when we can look back at it and say, you know what, it was necessary for that to happen for me to get to where I am today. So it's kind of interesting how, life does unfold, and it's from my perspective, it's our mindset, right? It's that, like, what do I think about it? How do I internalize it? How does this affect my life? Because the same exact situation can affect every single one of us completely differently. And I'll share just kind of like briefly, and I will allude to it, but I won't say the exact scenario, and Angel might know what I'm talking about. So somebody reached out during the process and asked a question about something. And I myself, when the question was asked, here's what I noticed is I went into a defensive mode. Because when I read the question, I read it from a perspective of, different hurts that I had experienced when I was younger. And when I read it from that perspective. And I was like, ooh, uh-oh. And then I reached out to Angel and I posed the same question to her. And she had a completely different take on it. And so it was interesting because it gave me that opportunity. I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this that, I learned a lot about myself through this process working, with Angel here, as well as, a lot about Angel. But she helped me to see that from a completely different perspective. And I said, oh yeah, there are other ways of looking at this, right? And so I think it's really fascinating. I just wanted to bring that up because it came up, and I wanted to share that. So with that said, Jackie, I'm curious, when you sat down and you started writing your chapter, were there any like emotional things that came up that you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that or not? And then you ended up saying, yes, I'm going to do that. Like, what was the experience you had, through the like emotional or mental aspect of writing your chapter?
I just believe it was something that needed to be done. And as far as the emotional, I kind of, I'm distant from it now. It's been there, happened. It's not anything that I even choose to relive, but writing about it and reflecting on it, that looking at it, it's like things could have been done differently. I could have saved a lot more time getting out of a bad relationship earlier, or instead of having a caregiver caretaker agency caring for my dad for 5 years, and I'm not on to it until year 2.5 or 3, that who would think that anything would be adverse when you're hiring and caregiving a home care agency to take care of your loved one? Why would you think anything would be adverse to that? Because that's what they're paid to do. But when you start delving in to who these people are and how little they get paid by the agency, then you start understanding why so many mishaps happen in the home care giving world. So it was a red flag to put out there. And so, yeah, hitting some emotions. I guess you're right, Linda. I didn't really realize that. But it's just, it's not, I'm hearing more and more stories every day. And that's what I realized. It wasn't just my story. I wasn't alone. And that was, I think, was the biggest part of why I needed to share my story and to contribute to this chapter, this bit about manipulations.
Well, thank you so much for doing that, Jackie. And what I'd like to ask you next is, for anybody who is watching us, or either now live or later on the replay, or for anybody who's choosing to purchase the book, who may also have a story, whether it's a story like yours, around caregiving, or if it's a story like Linda's around running away from home when she was 5, or a story like Sally's about working her dreams. And they are reticent maybe to, or indecisive, maybe that's a better word, indecisive about whether or not it's time to put their story into potentially a collaborative book. I'd love to have you talk just briefly about what the experience of collaborating with us, with the Wickedly Smart Women team, with Linda and Action Takers Publishing, Linda and Sally, their team, and also the other authors that have been part of this book.
It's been great. And I really appreciate the opportunity that was offered to me. Thank you, Linda. I remember when she first called me, I was on the road going someplace, and it's like, yes, that sounds good. Okay. And the other night, I picked up the phone and called a fellow author, Debbie Peterson, and she's in California. And, it's like we get in these Zoom rooms sometimes and you don't know what you're going to say to these strangers, but then you start talking and it's like, we have so much in common. And so that's really ideal to collaborate with other authors and to learn the more publishing aspects and promoting aspects that I've been trying to keep up with you guys in the last 5 days about. It's been fantastic. And I'm right behind you trying to do everything that's said on Messenger and everything. So it's been a great, great experience, a learning experience. And I just highly recommend to work with Angel and Linda on any occasion that is offered to get your story out there. It's worth it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. I love that because, when we come together, we don't know what we're really, really creating until it's been created. And so the whole process, for me and Sally, especially, like we just thrive on this big time. So we're always grateful and glad when people are enjoying the process. Sometimes it gets a little hairy and a little fast, but we slow back down eventually. And like Angel says, take a breath, Linda. Take a breath, Linda. I got to remind myself that too. So, Sally, during the process of you writing your chapter, for this book here, what was your experience? Because you've written now many, many books, since you did that very, very first collaboration book, you've been in many now. So you're a multi-times, #1 international best-selling author, and you sat down to write this chapter here. What's going through your mind and what made you decide to write this particular chapter?
I think for this one, it was the intuition and the spirituality of it, and knowing that I could write about that part of my life. And so, when I sat down to write it, and it was just, it's a lot of times when I sit down to write with these chapters, sometimes I have a hard time trying to figure out what I'm going to write. And a lot of times when I look back at my life, I'm like, my life's been kind of boring. I didn't have any of these things, big things happen to me that I need to write about. So I try to find the parts that the big lessons that I've learned in my life. And so and a lot of times it does get emotional, and it does get you try to figure out, okay, where am I going with this? What direction do I want to take this in? And so, but I, love being part of these books. I love the communities that we create. And I, especially with this book, I think this is my favorite one to date. And
I won't tell anybody else. I won't tell anybody else. Just okay, go on.
but just this community of women are just so special. And I think, everyone was put here for a purpose, and it's just so much fun.
Yes, definitely. Angel, a final question for the ladies, and then we're going to bring up our next guest to the stage.
Yeah, well, I want to go first to Sally and say, I'm ringing my bell. Thank you for blessing us with your decision that this was the best one. Your chapter is Dreams Don't Work Unless You Do. So I would love to hear what your dream is for this book and these authors.
Yeah, I would love to see all of these authors step into their power, step into their dreams, and to become exactly who it is that they were put on this earth to become. And to, that this book is a catalyst for that this book is a catalyst for giving them a direction and helping them to figure out their purpose. And I think, that's why I do this. For me, I have always wanted to be a writer since I was little. I remember I was 10 years old and asking Santa for a typewriter and getting my first typewriter because I wanted to write. And so I think that's been part of my being for years. But then I've often said, well, what am I going to write about? So this gives me the opportunity to step into that dream, to step into that power, and I just wish that for everybody, that we, not just this book but all of our books, that these books are a catalyst for helping them to find that purpose and to find that dream and to go after it, get them on stages and get them in front of people and build those relationships with other people. That was when I was in the very first book, I was like, how can I utilize this? How can I, get this, create relationships? Because that was like the big part of the puzzle that was missing for me for years, was I didn't know anybody who had their own business. Nobody in my family was a business owner, and I had nobody to learn from. And so, and nobody in my family and friends were business owners. And so it was, and I always had that bug. I always had that, I want to be my own business, but I had no idea. I had no mentors to show me. And so when I got into that first book, it was like, okay, here's some people that know what they're doing. I need to connect with them. And so that's my dream for this book.
Oh,
And I just want to state that at 10, all I wanted was a Barbie doll. I had no intention of ever having a typewriter. And her typewriter was the one you had to go like this, right?
It was the carriage return, and you had and it had the correction tape. It had that little white correction tape where you could go back.
Oh, the memories.
I learned on a typewriter that didn't have the little connection tape, so correction tape.
Right.
We had to like take this little round eraser thing that had a brush on the end of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, the good old days.
Jackie, Sally mentioned relationships, and your chapter is titled Relationships, Manipulations, and Questions. One of the things that I would love to hear from you is, what do you want to create for relationship with the readers, the people who are reading your chapter? My sense is that you really have a heart for deep diving into direct connection with those readers. So what kind of relationship do you want to create with the readers?
A relationship with the readers, a relationship where they don't have to stub their toe as many times, that they can learn, I think, from all of our chapters, where they can avoid stubbing their toe someplace and diverting and going a different direction. I think that's the relationship that, again, that we're here to help one another. And, that's the innateness of me, is if we can help one another, it's like if you throw one starfish back into the ocean, you save that one. And that's what's very important, whether it's the relationship triangle there or the manipulation, how to avoid that. And then the questions, just to question yourself more and try to step back and look at your situation. There's a great song by Johnny Cash, like, you don't know you're in the whirlwind until you step out of the whirlwind. You don't know you're in the thorns of the rose until you step outside of the rose to see the thorns. So you've really got to step back and look at your situation. And that's the connection I want to make with the readers, that they will look at this, read the chapters, and look at themselves hopefully more objectively, instead of being in the storm of their life, their journey, whatever's going on with them.
I love that. And I just want to share that y'all are lucky I don't know that Johnny Cash song. Okay. I just putting it out there. Every opportunity I can sing, I will. But that one, I don't even know that one. But I want to thank you both for being here. Sally, Jackie, Sally's going to be back a little bit later to interview both Angel and I. So please stick around for that. But this book here, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, taking action, transforming worlds. See, my brain came back. It's in fact, you already have over $3,000 worth of free gifts for you to download. Go to actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. And then when you head over there, also make sure to hit the flag. There's a bunch of flags there for the countries that the book is available in. Hit that flag and purchase the book. It's only 99 cents US on Kindle, and you're going to help us to hit that #1 international bestseller status. The book is already an international bestseller, just not the #1 yet. So look forward to seeing that happen today. And Jackie and Sally, I'm going to send you down to the green room, and you can stick around there, or you can go ahead and Sally, you can't go anywhere, but Jackie, you can you can stick around and watch us from here. That'd be awesome. So thank you so much, ladies, for being here. Oh boy, Angel. We're making it through it. We're making it through it. This has been awesome. I'm loving all the stories, the energy. You know, for me, energy is a huge thing. And I know it is for all of us. Like, everything is energy. But, sometimes I get to a place where I'm by myself so much that I start to just kind of wane on my energy. Then I get into something like this and boom, I shoot right back up. And so it's super exciting to be here with you and to be able to experience that energy with you. And yes, I'm going to take some deep breaths. Okay. I will do that.
Deep cleansing breaths. Wow.
Exactly. But before we do, go ahead. You want to say something?
I just want to quickly talk about the energy. And, I'm not somebody who's biblical in terms of my spirituality, but there is one phrase in the Bible that I really love, which is, whenever 2 or more are gathered, there is love. And from my perspective, this gathering of 17 women, we are all loving ourselves enough to express ourselves. We're loving each other enough to create this beautiful collaborative book together. And you, Linda, and Action Takers Publishing is loving Wickedly Smart Women enough that we decided to come together, and therefore there is love. So if you're feeling energized, it's love that you're feeling. That's what's happening.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So many years I didn't feel love because I didn't really know what it was. Like, I thought I knew what it was. I thought I knew what it was until I really knew what it was, and one thing I discovered is that we can love people we don't even know. And that, to me, that is like when you know that there's true love within you, because you love somebody just for them being. Just for them being. And so, with that said, let's bring up our next 2 guests. We have Victoria and Batul. I'm going to bring them up. And so go ahead and introduce Victoria in the amazing Angel way. No pressure.
No pressure at all. Well, this gorgeous creature, Victoria, came into my life through the Wickedly Smart Women podcast originally. And she is just one of the most extraordinary manifestors and grace. Like, she embodies grace to me. She is one of these women, when you're in her presence, she is so powerful, but she doesn't flex it. You know what I mean? There's no hype, there's no flexing. But if Victoria says, I think this should happen, it just happens magically. And Victoria was really instrumental in bringing the final round of our authors into this book. And for that, I am absolutely eternally grateful. Thank you so much, Victoria, for leveraging your manifesting magic to support us to get this book off the ground. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I have nothing to say. I'd like to listen to Angel praise me.
There we go.
I'm here to be nourished. That fed my soul.
Well, and here's what you do, Victoria. You embody receptivity. And that is something that many women do not know how to handle, And I think that is a key ingredient in the embodiment of grace that you deliver into the world is your willingness to be receptive. So, yeah.
I know we haven't gotten to the book, but the spirit is moving to share it. How powerful is that the feminine energy is that of receptivity, and we've been all trained that we can only succeed through our masculine. And here you ladies come up with a wickedly smart woman saying, we're open, not to claim, not to reclaim, not to fight, claw, and get our power back. We're going to receive it. And once we have it, and we already do, we have nothing to prove. We just get to be in it. So receptivity. Let's do another book.
Well, as a matter of fact, we are. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit. But before we do that, I want to bring up our next guest, Batul. I'm not even going to pronounce your last name. Actually, I'm
Ajluni.
Darn it. I was going to attempt it, and that's exactly how I was going to say it. I promise. The angel, go ahead and introduce Batul.
No problem, Linda.
Well, Batul comes to us from Jordan. And so thank you so much for being one of our international authors to make this a global family of women, wickedly smart women. Batul comes to us after having spent multiple decades, having co-founded a company, and then coming to a place where she ended up getting burnt out from doing exactly what Victoria was speaking about earlier, where we were trained. We were culturally and societally trained to be in our masculine so much that many women have ended up hitting the wall, burning out, physically being damaged, myself included. I will raise my hand on that. And Batul got herself out and speaks about that in her chapter. So I'm so delighted that you're here with us. It's, I don't know what time in the middle of the night or morning or whatever it is for you, Batul, but welcome. We are so glad you're here with us.
Well, thank you so much. It's so good to be here with you guys. It's amazing. And it's just before 1 a.m. here in Jordan. So I'm still awake and looking forward to our celebration in a few hours from now. This has been an amazing experience. So I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. We're so glad that you are here as well. So what I want to do first is I want to bring up both of your chapter titles and ask you just a little bit about them. So Victoria, your chapter title is Just at the Right Time. So why don't you share with us, like, how did you come up with that chapter title and what happened just at the right time?
You know, I think this is probably a compassion birthed title, compassion for self and compassion for so many of my incredible clients or students that have said so many times, if only I had this earlier in my life. Like, you know, and so, and I would always say, you have it just at the right time. And it's the healing of that statement is so powerful to me because we've all learned through messing up and will continue doing so. And we've all, you know, we talked about Batul's gorgeous chapter. I just finished reading it today, you know, about the burnout. And I thought, how incredible. This is the energy of a phoenix. You know, she had to burn out so she can rise again. Anyway, I just have so much love, Batul, that we're in the same space here because that to me was very meaningful. And it just comes to it just at the right time, the burnout at the right time, the mistake at the right time, the pain at the right time. And so is the healing at the right time and the miracle at the right time. And so my purpose for the chapter was for everyone to look at it, read and say, the reason I had to ignore my intuition so many times is so that just at the right time, I would lean into it so fully that all the miracles would unfold completely. So that's kind of the premise of the title.
You know what I love about that most is as I sat down to write my chapter for the book, you know, I was like, I don't know how, like when I started trusting my intuition, for me, it was decades, you know, before I even started even recognizing that I had any intuition. Yeah, I know it was there now, but at the time, I just never really knew what was guiding me, right? And so it's interesting that you say that it was just at the right time that I learned that I do have intuition. So yeah, I love that. Thank you so much.
Victoria, you know, one of the things I love about this is one of my favorite sayings long before I met you, long before you submitted your chapters, I always say exactly on time. Like I'm always exactly on time, exactly on time, exactly on time. And, you know, we talked earlier about the cultural conditioning. Part of our cultural conditioning that I believe that we, wickedly smart women, are here to dismantle is this pressure, this immense pressure that is so erosive to well-being that we put in our relationship with time. And so what I'd love to ask you now, Victoria, is when the time came for the invitation to participate with us here, what was it that allowed you to know, KNOW, that it was just the right time to contribute your chapter?
Well, I have an actual PhD, but I joke having earned a PhD and ignoring intuition, I could teach a course on every possible way of resisting, relentlessly, reverting from ignoring intuition. And so, having done that so with such brilliance in my life, I finally have found myself at a luxury of actually paying attention to it. And so, when you've mentioned during the podcast interview, I bet that, hey, I have these couple opportunities, which one is aligned for you? The book came up, but I was coming out of another gorgeous collaboration process in which I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. uh, I said, okay, I just need to tune in to the person who is behind the project to finalize the decision. And so you opened the door, and Linda was standing on the other side of that door. And I think within the first 30 seconds of the meeting with Linda, I said, oh yeah, I'm in. I mean, I'm in. I feel you. I know you. Angel is for real. You're for real. I'm very much into finishing the process of my life of bringing life to a dead fish and swimming with the live ones, because for so many for so many years I'm like, but I see a spark of light in them. I'm going to be breathing air into them until it becomes a fire. And I finally gave myself the permission of, no, I'm going to go where fire is. I'm tired of working with appearance. I'm going to nourish myself through substance. And every person, every author, every team member on this gorgeous Wickedly Smart Women program is a woman of such immense substance that alone has been just a feast for my soul. So that is how.
Yeah,
I gotta
I
break
know.
on that one.
That was a bell ringer for sure. And I love that. I'm going to, definitely going to go back and listen to that piece right there, especially because you mentioned about the fire. I'm going to go to where the fire is, right? And so when we find that fire, like you said, because the fire is already burning, we don't have to create it. We don't have to go get the kindling and all that stuff because the fire is already burning. So it's so much easier to move with a moving train than to get on that train that hasn't even started, it hasn't even left the station yet. And so I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so good. So good. The dead fish to the live fish. Yeah. So Batul, the title of your chapter is The Choices We Make. Now, we talked about choices a little bit earlier today. You had a couple of our authors were talking about choices, and choices are really a big deal in our lives. And you're giving us this opportunity to, either ask ourselves the right questions or the wrong questions and coming up with the right choices or the wrong choices. But every choice we make is a choice that's helping us to get to that next decision, right? And to get to the end result, whatever we're looking for. So I'm curious about your chapter title, The Choices We Make. How did you come up with that? And what is your chapter about?
So it's actually sort of a continuation of my the memoir that I published last year, which is called Ditching Success, which tells the story of my moving from moving from a passionate workaholic to extreme burnout and having to literally ditch everything I worked for 3 decades in order to save my life in a way, because of the situation I was in, because of the burnout that I allowed myself to get into. And it all burns down to the choices that we make in our lives, because at some point we choose to do a certain thing and that leads our lives to a certain direction. And then at a certain time along the lines, we choose something else and it leads us another way, another place. Priorities in life change with time and as we age. And what was once so important to us in our lives, the most important things in our lives, suddenly can just shift to being trivial, especially when certain incidents or events happen in our lives, like illness, for example, or in my case, work burnout. Okay, but what's so important to do is when such events happen, when they unfold, not to be afraid to make the hard choices, because in reality, it's only those choices that we struggle with the most are the ones that eventually bring us discovery that we're after, because we struggle so much with them. They are difficult to make. They are really, things that move us from the inside. But that's what makes this whole journey that they lead us to is so worthy and so important to our lives. And it could be, the choices could be really across so many aspects of our lives, but to mostly they do change us. And that's very important, because embracing change is something that eventually will also help us lead a better life, what at one point in time.
Beautiful, Batul. Well, one of the things that I think that, we were talking earlier with Victoria about the fire. In your case, the fire went on for too long and was too hot, ultimately, right?
Oh yeah.
And so there's this really what I like to call the delicate dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think our work is to be the cauldron, right? Make sure there's enough moisture and fire together to be sustainable for the long term. And one of the things that you bring to the table, Batul, is this incredible leadership ability, but also this incredible fire for adventure, the fire for liberation, the fire for it's the healthy fire for self revelation and self expression and self love and self care. And so I'd love to hear, as you were presented with the opportunity to join us, where did the fire, where were you feeling the fire, shall I say? The fire that's not going to burn you, but the fire that's going to nourish you. Where were you feeling, or how were you feeling? How were you intuiting that it was a yes to come into this project and join us?
The way that this project came to me is a story in itself, but it was pure coincidence that I came to your email, Angel, that actually had the offer for us to join the book. And it just hit me right then and there. The moment I saw the title, and I was aware of the title of your podcast, but the moment I thought of the title as a book, it was, I mean, just the subtitle: trusting intuition, taking action, transforming worlds. I was someone who had trusted my intuition. I was someone who took that intuition and took action that actually changed my life at a point that I wasn't even ready for it. This is the whole thing. I took action when I was still not ready, but because it was an intuition, I felt I needed to take that action. And my whole hope from all of that was to really bring to myself and hopefully to others a better world, a better understanding, because I was suffering from I was going through all that struggle with, why did all of this happen? Why did I allow myself to go through that burnout, to have to have gone for, as you said, too long. I was 5 years burning in that fire for a whole 5 years. And when I left at a point where I didn't know where I was going. And that took me to another 5 years of being in sort of a limbo state, figuring it out. So my mission now is to help people go through it with a lot less struggle and suffering than I had to, because eventually many women will go through that. And by the way, women do burn out much more and much faster than men, for obvious reasons. So my mission is to really help people that are going through that, go through it with knowing more, helping them go with it at hopefully a faster pace, so that I have to struggle for a whole decade going through it all. So all of that together, and the second reason I like that is because it was a chance for me to sort of continue my chapter of my book. When I wrote it, when I published it, I wasn't where I was now, so it didn't really end. It didn't say where you would be later on if that happened to you. So this was a chance for me to sort of have an ending to the story, sort of not an ending as such, but a different, a port where people can see themselves go to in their journey, rather than the sort of an open end that I had in my book. So this is the two reasons that came to me the moment I saw that chance, and I said, okay, that's it. I think I'm in.
Beautiful. We're so grateful that you decided to be in, Batul. All right, quick last final question for both of you, and I'll start with you, Batul. You spent a lot of years in the ashes, right? You spent a lot of years in the ashes, and now you're coming out. So I'd love to hear how the experience has been for you to participate with us. And if there's anybody else out there who's reading the book or who's watching us today who may be in the place that you were when we put this opportunity in front of you, who might be thinking they have a story that they know that it's time for them to share, we'd love to hear what your experience has been with working with Action Takers Publishing and also with Wickedly Smart Women. And if there's anything you can say to encourage them to stir the ashes to see if they can find the ember.
Sure. I self-published my book, and I learned the whole process while I was writing it. So I know exactly what it takes to publish a book. I know exactly what it takes to go through all the ins and outs of the publishing. It takes a lot of work, and having gone through it, I understand the intricacies of it. What you guys have done is amazing, because you took all that process away, off of my back, off of the writer's back, and it just went so smooth and so easy. And as authors, as writers, we did not have to worry about all those publishing issues, and just worry about the writing itself. And the whole process went really smooth. So my experience was really great. I think it's not something that I had in mind to do before that, but I definitely would do it again. And I would advise anyone who is thinking about starting to write, this is a great opportunity to start something, because it's manageable, it's short, and someone will take over the difficulties of the publishing. But even if you have written something, it's also a great chance to be part of that whole community of wonderful writers, and the Angel, Linda, and Sally, you've been amazing. So this whole thing was just really, really exciting. And I would definitely do it again. I would recommend anyone who's thinking of writing to just try it out.
Beautiful. Thank you. Victoria, glorious one. I would like to hear from you. You know, you're talking about swimming. You swam for a long time with the fish that had no fire. And I could so relate to that. And being the one who's like the bellows, like, let me blow some air in there and get that fire going. And I'd love to hear from you now that you've been swimming with fish that have their own little fires going, what it has been like for you to be part of this book writing process.
You know, I think the gift of this journey for all of us, or more from me, because I've had a time to kind of, like Batul, have done it a few times and look at it, is that a lot of time we go into a project like this thinking we have so much to offer to the world and the world needs us. And I think the gorgeous irony of that is we're the ones that grow through it and get the most out of it. And it prepares us to be of a greater gift to the world and thus more capable to contribute to it. And so at least that's been my observation. And so when you go in with people, with these women that come from such a phenomenal place of contribution, and to watch how all of us are growing through that process and by default become greater contributors, I think that's the magic and a miracle of a process that I observe. You know, iron sharpens iron. That sure is very true. And so being together through the process of willing to contribute and realizing that we only do by becoming greater contributors ourselves, I think has been a gorgeous gift.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. Just both of you, thank you so much for being part of this book, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action, Transforming Worlds. I got it right, Angel. Okay. But please, those who are watching us right now, we have over $3,000 worth of free gifts available for you. And also there's a link there for you to click on a flag that relates to the country that you're in and go purchase the book, Wickedly Smart Women. Go to actiontakerspublishing.com/smart and go get those free gifts. And then also, connect with the authors. This is one of the common themes we've been hearing here today is the connections, the relationships, right? The choices that we make. So make a choice today to download those free gifts, to connect with those authors, because you never know what's going to happen until you step outside of your comfort zone. So you may be sitting there thinking, well, I'm not sure about reaching out to them. I'm not sure if they're going to want to talk to me, or whatever it is, that chatter that you have going on in your mind. I'm telling you that these ladies are all interested in connecting with you, because they know that it's all about the greater picture. It's not about themselves. So please connect with them. And Victoria and Batul, thank you for being part of this book. I'm going to go and send you down to the green room, and we're going to bring up our next guest to the stage here. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Oh man, Angel. This is good.
Okay, we're birthing. We're in the birth canal now, Linda. We got to keep breathing.
Push. All right, what is that? What do you call that?
The Lamaze breathing.
Yes, the Lamaze method. It's been like, you know what? This year will mark 40 years since my son was born. Like, oh my gosh, that's how long it's been since I
my son will be 28, and I did not get to use the Lamaze breathing during birth because he was born prematurely. But what I did use the Lamaze breathing for was when they were sticking the epidural in my back.
Well, I bet you needed that big time for that. Yeah. Oh my gosh, please do not tell about that right now.
No, not today. Not in today's broadcast.
Not today's broadcast.
That's story right. For another day, another book.
For another book. There we go, another book. So, Angel, before we bring on our next two guests, who are Lindley and Debbie, I want you to just share a little bit about the nonprofit. 100% of the net proceeds from the sales of this book is going to Life is Good Playmakers project. And so why don't you share with us a little bit about the project so people can know where their money is going?
Yeah, so the Life is Good Playmakers Project, it used to be called the Life is Good Kids Foundation, and now it's the Playmakers Project. They've been changing their branding a little bit, but The core message has been and will remain the same. Life is Good is a $100 million lifestyle and t-shirt company. They were originally a t-shirt company, and as they began their journey, the brothers who founded the company, as they began their journey, putting out these t-shirts that were filled with optimism. Like their company is fueled by the power of optimism. That is the kind of the tagline for the Life is Good company. They're fueled by the power of optimism. As they were progressing in their entrepreneurial journey, as they were putting out these beautiful optimistic messages, they were getting back from their buyers so many stories. And it's so fascinating that, it's the stories that actually move people. It's the stories that we are willing to tell and the stories that others are willing to tell that actually move people into powerful evolutionary action. Anyway, all of these stories were coming in, and they became clear that their brand was actually bigger, bigger than they were aware of, and ended up partnering with this man, Steve. His last name is escaping me for some reason, and he was one of my guests at the very end of the Men on Purpose podcast. But Steve from the Life is Good Playmakers had his own organization where he was teaching frontline childcare workers how to help kids who have been traumatized to learn how to play again. And these are kids who are in war zones, the Playmakers went to Haiti after the earthquake in Haiti. They went down to Louisiana after the Hurricane Katrina, and they train frontline childcare workers. So daycare workers, teachers, anybody who's on the front line with children in front of them that they're caring for, they train them to help kids who've been traumatized to learn how to play again. And when I heard about that, it just opened my heart, and I wanted to be a contributor. And so what I did was I made the decision to not spread my tithing money around, like a few dollars here, a few dollars there, a few dollars here, a few dollars there. I made the decision that all of the 10% of the net proceeds in my own business go to the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation. And for this book, we decided that all the authors got together and decided that all of the proceeds from the sale of this book go to the Playmakers, because we want to support more play in the world. We want to support the Playmakers to be able to take their message out. And it's a win-win-win for everyone. Oh, you're muted, honey.
Definitely a great cause. And, I'm honored that we get to participate in this as well. And again, as she stated, it's 100% of the proceeds from the sales, 100%. None comes to Action Takers Publishing. None goes to Wickedly Smart Women. None goes to any of the authors. It all goes to Life is Good Playmakers. So check it out. And we're just thankful for you to go ahead and, purchase the book. And actually, there's a way that you can purchase more than one book. You can buy copies for other people. I know, Angel, you bought several copies that you're gifting to people. But now I want to share this is once you buy it, it doesn't go as credit towards us. It goes as credit once they actually redeem your link for them. So make sure you send it out. If you're going to buy some extra copies, send that link out right away and ask them to click on that link right away so that it goes towards our, we're shooting for that #1 international bestseller status. Okay, so with that, Angel, we're bringing on our final two guests of the day. We have Lindley. I'm going to bring her up. So you want to, in Angel fashion, make your amazing introduction.
All right. Well, we have Lindley Baker with us. Lindley is one of those exceptional, wickedly smart women who spent most of her career and her life in a very, very masculinized world, the world of math, not just the world of math, but the world of actuarial science, which for many people, we don't even know what the heck that is. And so Lindley has spent so many of years of her life in this highly masculinized environment and industry, but simultaneously, all along the way, she's been trusting her intuition. So she's super highly developed in her feminine side as well. And she brings the best of both worlds to our book through her story and her heart for helping other women to be empowered. So Lindley, thank you so much for participating. We're so excited you're here.
I'm excited to be here.
We're really happy to have you and excited to hear your story, which we're going to bring up in just a minute. We're going to bring in our next guest, which is Debbie Peterson. And Angel, want to go and introduce Debbie?
Oh, well, like most women, we turn around and we look around us after we've accomplished some stuff and we say, okay, where am I going to put my power next? And that is the true example of what Debbie is. She is the kind of woman who automatically is going to create success wherever she goes. And as a result of her successful business career, was able to see into the local government in her community where she could apply her business savvy to create change on the ground for her neighbors, for her friends, for her community. And in the process, discovered some stuff that needed to be revealed, and not only revealed, but reformed. And so Debbie comes to us as the former mayor Debbie Peterson of a little town in St. Louis Obispo. And she wrote a book about the dirty little secret of St. Louis Obispo. And so we're just really excited for you to be here with us today, Debbie, and bringing your powerhouse business savvy, government savvy, and capacity to just go take action and get stuff done to the table with us in this book. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to talking with you guys today.
Us too. Yeah, I met Debbie in person actually on Friday, so that was exciting. We had an opportunity to connect with each other, and I'm going to admit that when we had a real hug and everything. When I first met Debbie, I was a little scared because I'm like, oh my God, this is an ex-mayor. Like, I don't know anything about political people, but when I talked to her, I realized that she's just another human being, just like me, and she just has a different story to tell. Which is. Hers is about corruption and just sharing what corruption is all about in her little town there. And so we're going to talk. I'm going to ask Debbie first. So your chapter title is The Dirty Little Secret of San Luis Obispo County, which is in California. So you want to share with us like how you came up with that title and what does that mean? What is the dirty little secret?
Well, I love that question, Linda, because when you called me, you confessed that you were terrified of speaking to a mayor. And you said, oh, you must be really famous. Your hometown, they must love you. You must be a hero because you fixed corruption. And my response was to laugh and to say, well, no, actually, yes, I am a hero to many people. And then there are those who don't really want the bad news to be out. And of course, if you don't get the bad news out, you can't fix it. So Linda, you said, as we were laughing about that, you said, oh, you must be the dirty little secret of San Luis Obispo County. And I said, you know what? That's going to be the name of the chapter. And it's a wonderful, wonderful name. And so I went ahead and I wrote about several of the dirty little secrets, some of which have been resolved, some that we still need to do some work on. And then as I was writing, I realized that the people who really stepped up in the government positions to make change were women. There were lots of men involved, and probably as many men as women, but it was the women who stuck their necks out. And so that encouraged me to reach the conclusions I did in the chapter, and you'll have to read it to find out what that is.
Yeah, and I got to tell you that as I'm reading Debbie's chapter, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, maybe I should run for mayor.
Yeah.
And then I said, no. It was the point there was that her chapter is very compelling. And she talks about, women really raising their hand and getting into government, to help because, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. And, we need, like that, maybe a little more feminine touch in the government. And so, but anyway, it did compel me for a moment, Debbie. It was just a moment. It was fleeting. It disappeared.
It will return. It will haunt you.
Maybe with lots of resistance. I don't know. But thank you so much, for being in the book. And I know we had a really great conversation. Like when we got on that call, we were just cracking up the whole time. And so it was really fun to see that, yes, I can relate to an ex-mayor, So that was great for me.
Well, I want to also say that what I love about you, Debbie, is not only were you willing to use your business expertise to expose the corruption and to really get to work on the ground in your own town, but you've also gone on to become an advocate for other women to get involved in government. And, you already have sparked Linda Sunshine a little bit there. So I'd love to have you speak just a little bit about your advocacy and what you have already got in place to support people who may be getting that calling, who may be getting the bug in their ear that, hey, I need to stop thinking somebody else is going to take care of all of this stuff and step up and, put some energy right here into my own local community. We're so focused on kind of the global and the World Wide Web and, what's happening out there that we oftentimes ignore what's happening right in our own backyard. So won't you share a little bit, Debbie, about what you already have started to put into place to help others who want to get involved at the local government level?
Well, thank you so much for asking that. That means a lot to me. And I do have the first book I wrote, which is all about the dirty little secrets, is called The Happiest Corruption, Sleaze, Lies, and Suicide in a California Beach Town. And that's available on Amazon. And it does tell the story, and it reads like a thriller on purpose. It is a thriller. It's an amazing story of people who got together and fought corruption and what was really there, what they found. But the other thing is that my goal with that is to encourage people to grab them and encourage them to move forward to the next phase. And that next phase is to get involved in their local government. And so, as you say, a lot of times, well, actually, I have no clue how to do it. And so I just finished City Council 101. I'm launching this week as well. And I have an interview today when we're done. But City Council 101, Insider's Guide for New Council Members, is for folks who'd like to be on city councils or who are on city councils. And it talks about how to have good government, not politics, good government to serve the people and not just those who elected us, but in the communities in which we were elected. And in about 3 months, I'll have another one out called We the People 101. And that one is for everyday people like Linda who say, oh, yeah, I'd like to get involved. You got me, you hooked me, and you will be hooked. I will warn you, you will be hooked. It is a lot of fun, and you can do good things. You don't have to just go after corruption. Sometimes there's no corruption. You can just get in and do a good thing with your business expertise and your intuition and your ability as a woman to take action. I do have an online course as well, and that's called Double Dias, Adventures in Local Government. And that is for both council members and members of the public, because at the end of the day, we're all working together for the same goal, which is to create better quality of life, bring safety to our communities. That's really what government's about. It's about us being happy citizens, and we can play a huge part in that. So thank you for asking. And there are some ways when you read some of these books, every book has an offer in the front of it for an opportunity to learn a little bit more, a free offer. So thank you, Angel, for encouraging that. I appreciate it. Maybe you'll run for office too.
Well, Debbie, I actually I turned my downtown into a destination location for the arts about 16 years ago. So wow. I feel for now I'm good, because for now what I'm doing is elevating, celebrating, and spotlighting wickedly smart women, and that's good. Yes. I'm here to create a global community of women who are mutually supportive of one another in all of our endeavors and pursuits. But thank you for the invitation.
Well, and one of the things that struck me as I wrote the book, and I asked a friend of mine who's 85, I said, who's been my mentor and been involved in women's affairs for 85 years. And I said to her, why do we allow this? How is it that we are 51% of the population in the United States and we're only represented by 27, 28%? And just that alone, we have got to get in there and make a difference, because we can.
That's a fascinating statistic there, and a question, I guess, to ask myself. I don't know. So I will look at it, Debbie. I don't know how deep I'll look right now, because doing the publishing is my thing.
When it's right. Yeah, when the time is
exactly.
Right.
When I'm 85, I'll be looking at that. No, I don't know if I want to wait till I'm 85, but it really is an interesting concept, because it's not something that I've ever considered. But again, reading your chapter, it really had me look at it differently. So thank you so much for sharing that and sharing your story from that perspective, because it helps, if there is anybody out there who's looking at it a little bit, this might help them to dive in a little bit more. So thank you for that. So next I want to go to Lindley. Lindley, your chapter title is Trust Your Intuition to Reach Your Life Dreams. And so why don't you share with us, what does this chapter title mean to you, and how did you come up with that?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about life dreams, and I realized that it was my intuition that helped me reach them. A couple of years ago, I wrote a book, Don't Be Afraid to Do What You Really Want to Do, Reach All Your Life Dreams, which is also available on Amazon. And a lot of people think they can be successful at one thing, and then everything else, well, that just has to be sacrificed. And I've had three main things that I've been interested in, and it's my intuition telling me, I wanted to be a mother. I loved math, as Angel explained, and I love music. And so if you want to be a performing musician, people say, well, that's the only thing you do. Or if you want to be a mother, you forget about everything else. And I just didn't want to believe that, especially with my intuition telling me that I really wanted to do big things in those three areas. So I started out by majoring in math at college and minoring in music, but I got a job in math. But then I got married and I had kids. And so I took 19 years to focus on the kids. I wanted to raise them myself. And I had great experiences. I was able to live in 4 different countries and learn all sorts of different cultures. And then when we got back to the States and my youngest went to first grade, I took the chance to get a master's degree in music, in viola performance. And that really fed my soul. And that was really an eye-opener for me, because I was thinking, well, I'm really busy, but kids are at school all day. I can use some of this time for myself to get a degree in music. And I'll just stretch myself so I can get everything in. And that is totally not what happened. What happened was my soul expanded. When I was creating music, learning about music with other grown-ups that were good at music, my capacities expanded. My soul was happier, and I was able to be a better mother and handle those other things that I had to do every day for my 6 kids. So that was a big part of the book. And then the other thing is, I really love math. And even though I was taking a generation off, I didn't want to never do it again. So I did little things to try to keep current, like teaching at college part-time, and hoping that that would be the door to get me back into the career when my kids were older and I felt like I had time to do that again. And it turned out that that was successful. And so my book also talks about, step by step, how do you do it? I had no idea I'd be able to get a job again. I was just hoping. And then when it did happen, then I can tell people, you don't have to hope. It can actually really happen. If you want to take a break from work, just keep current some way. So I think that our intuition is a gift to us from God, the universe, however you want to define it, telling us what's going to make us happy, what's going to help us make a difference in the world. And so I've been really happy to share this with other people, especially other women that are interested in seeing how they can not have so many regrets in life, but over a full life, I think you can fit in great experiences in everything you love.
Beautiful. Lindley, so, one of the things that is remarkable about you is that you just, not only do you trust your intuition, but from what I know about you, you give yourself permission to have what you want, right? And maybe you have what you want, but it's not always all at once.
Mm-hmm.
So when we presented the opportunity to you to be part of this book, I'd love to hear how you tapped in. Like, what was it that allowed you to say yes to this? And that now was the time for you to join us in this book and create your beautiful chapter and provide for our readers all over the world your perspective.
I felt like it was a great opportunity because it was a lot of the same story I'd already written in my book, but tying it into how intuition helps us, which I think is a real key to knowing yourself. That's a big theme in my book. Know thyself. What do you like? What are you bad at? What are you good at? And that helps you get through life or gets through an exam or whatever you're up against. If you know what your abilities are and what your interests are, that can guide you. And as far as why I wanted to participate in the book, I felt like this was a great opportunity to get my experiences out to more women. So a lot of people could enjoy the same ideas of trying to do more than one thing in your life. And another thing that happened since I wrote what I didn't focus on in my book is my husband of 35 years, one day he just left me. And I was not prepared. I was shocked. We had had a good marriage. But he decided he'd prefer to be married to somebody older, uglier, and dumber than me. So, but still, again, my intuition helped me through that, because I think a lot of people, when something like that happens to them, they get all depressed and they take shame on themselves. They feel like they are failures and that they're worthless. And that's totally not true. And so I trusted my intuition that tells me I'm the same valuable person that I was when I was a wife. And that helps. That's so much more positive. That helps you get through all the difficulties that come with that. And so this was an opportunity to tie when life hits you hard to just reaching your dreams, because the intuition can help us in so many areas of our lives.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I'm going to say congratulations, because he doesn't know what he walked away from, even though he's been with you for 35 years. I mean, more power to you that you were able to lean into knowing your own worth in the face of that. That's pretty interesting and fascinating. And I love that you wanted to help other women to know that they don't have to collapse in on themselves when anything happens, that, they can continue to trust their intuition and know that they're going to be okay. All right. Well, Debbie, I have one final question for you. You obviously are prolific with your writing, doing lots of writing. I'm curious what your experience was with us, with Action Takers Publishing, with Wickedly Smart Women. Like, how was it for you to participate in our collaborative project? And if there's any readers who are buying the book or people who are watching us right now who might be kind of indecisive about whether or not it's time for them to share their own story, what would you have to say to them to get them off the fence?
Well, I would say that I am really proud to have a chapter in the book. I just love the Wickedly Smart Women idea. And I will also say that I was absolutely sure that there was no way that I was going to write a chapter in Wickedly Smart Women well, I didn't know what the book was, I don't think, at that point, because I was in the middle of launching, like right on the cusp of launching my City Council 101 book. And they're out within 3 days of each other. And I thought, there is no way I can add one more thing to the plate. And yet, when I met Linda, how could I say no? She was so much fun. But what I will say is it's certainly it is probably the easiest writing project I've ever had, because I had a publisher there who wanted me, who was willing to work with me to help me, and thankfully didn't make really any changes to speak of. But I think it really was the simplest thing I've ever done. Writing 2,500 words is a lot easier than 39,000 or however 29,000, however many you're going to write for a book. And so I would highly encourage anyone who it's not just about writing it's not just about how simple it was to actually get this particular project off the ground, but it was also about how much fun it's been to meet the other women, the opportunities to network and to talk with all of you. And Lindley, I have 100 questions I'd love to ask you right now too, and things I'd love to say. And that's what happens. And it's so encouraging. And I too bought, I think I bought 20 copies. I might have bought more because I just wanted to sell this book. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful concept and a wonderful book. So I'm not getting paid to say this. I wish I was. Maybe
let's all put our, where's my phone? I got to take a picture. Give me 1 second, everyone. Hold on.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Honestly, it's well worth doing, and as easy a writing opportunity as you will ever have.
All right, everybody hold up your books. But Tula doesn't have her book, but that's okay. You have your book in spirit. Beautiful. Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
All right, Linda, it's over to you.
It was funny with Debbie because she was like, I'm not doing it. I am not signing up for the book. I'm just here to chat and learn a little bit about it. And then at the end, she was like, I'm signing up for the book. And I was like, what happened? So it was just really cool. I'm just so blessed and honored to have every single one of you be on this journey with us. The Wickedly Smart Women book is an incredible compilation of stories, from 17 women all over the world. And we want to thank you all for being part of that. What we're going to do is, we have over $3,000 worth of free gifts for our viewers. Go ahead and go to actiontakerspublishing.com/smart. Go get those $3,000 worth of free gifts, connect with our authors. But while you're over there, please click on the flag that relates to your country and go purchase the book, the Kindle version. You can also buy additional copies for friends, family, however many you want to buy, and you can gift it to them as well. And that will also, count as credit for us as far as hitting that #1 international bestseller status. We're hanging at international bestseller, but we want #1. We're shooting for #1. That's what we're always shooting for. So I want to thank you all for being part of this book. And what I'm going to do is send you all back down to the green room. And Sally is going to she's going to finish out the interviews here with both Angel and I, because we haven't been interviewed yet. And so we're going to do that. Thank you, ladies, so much for being part of this. Truly appreciate you all. Oh, gosh. I'm just like out of breath, or, I don't know what I am anymore.
Nice deep breath. We're birthing.
Okay.
We're birthing. In through the nose, in through the nose. Always breathe through the nose, honey. If you breathe through the mouth, it tells your body that you're in fight or flight. So breathe through the nose.
Okay.
Out through the mouth. There you
What
go.
a fun day, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this has been so much. I look so much forward to launch day. Linda and we talk about this all the time. If we could do launch books every week or a couple of days, it would be so much fun, because these are just so great. So I just wanted to before we came on, I said to Linda, I need to interview you guys about your chapters. And so I think, Angel, I'm going to start with you. And your chapter is Change Your Name, Change Your Life. And one of the things, I've been a on this spiritual journey for the last 16 or 17 years. And, I'm really into the Bible. And a lot of the times in the Bible, God changes the names of the people in the Bible, as a way of them to establish a new identity or to give them their purpose. And so, part of your chapter, you talk about the different times that you've changed your names. Now, you've changed it a couple of times that we know of. so with your most recent name change to Angel, what was your thinking? What was your process in changing it to Angel? And what were you hoping to gain by that?
Well, so everybody's going to need to buy the book to get the whole backstory on this, Sally. And when I came to the name that I currently carry, it was as a result of actually what happened was I went into a healing session with a spiritual psychotherapist who I had worked with a decade before. I hadn't worked with her for quite a while. And I went to see her a few years after, I think it was 4 years after the life rupture that happened, that is also chronicled in my story. And so she had my backstory. And when I walked in the room, I shared with her some challenges that I was experiencing, and she had an intuitive hit. And her intuitive hit was, when you changed your name to Emerald Peaceful Green Forest, which was the name before this one, and that happened in 2016 when I changed it from Amethyst Wildfire, which all of this you can read about in my chapter. She said, when you changed your name to Emerald Peaceful Green Forest, did you do the numerology on your name? And I was like, no, I just listened to what I was being, guided to do in the moment. And I said, yes, because I have been guided by spirit now since 2001. And I literally live my life GBS, guided by spirit. So when spirit says, this is what's happening, I say, okay, show me how, tell me what to do, guide me, direct me. And I take action, right? Including legally changing everything, all my credit cards, my taxes, like everything. So when she said that to me, I said, no, I never did numerology on this name. Then I went on a little research to do some numerology on the name Emerald Peaceful Green Forest. And it was bad. It was bad for relationships. It was bad for money. It was bad for health. It was bad for like everything. It was perfect for the 4 years for me that I carried that name. But when I saw this report, which the other two names, I didn't do any kind of research. It was all given to me. This time I got this report. It says it's bad for this. 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 I was like, oh, hell no. I don't need to keep making myself suffer. So I got the report from the Caballerian Society, which is a group out of Canada that's been doing name numerology for 90 years. And they gave me selections. And out of the 121st, 120 last, and 120 middle names, Angel B. Hartwell precipitated. And within 3 days of choosing it, the courts had changed it. Boom. And I was off and running, and everything's been getting better ever since. It's like everything is better. So that's what precipitated this particular change. There you go.
So yeah. Do you foresee a change in the future?
I don't, but so I'm taking the word "but" out of my vocabulary. I'm working very diligently to take the word "but" out of my vocabulary. I do not in this incarnation see a change. It feels like third time is the charm, and I will not say no to the infinite source if I am asked to make another change. I will not say no to the infinite source that is, breathing life into me, if it comes to that.
Love it. Linda, do you have anything to add?
Well, yeah. About changing names, because Sunshine's not my given name. It's a name that was given to me by other people. Now, I didn't do any numerology on it, but it's a name that really has worked for me to my benefit for sure, because when I see it myself, or when I say it myself, I embody it. And it was something that I didn't at the beginning. It actually kind of happened on accident that it was just like 5 years ago only. So it's after 3 years into my personal development journey. And I was at a bar. My husband and I play bass guitar and sing in a rock band. And we were at this bar, and a guy that I'd seen many times, he was in another band. He just walked up and he goes, "Hey, Sunshine, how's it going?" Well, I looked behind me to see who he was talking to. Like, he couldn't be talking to me. I'm not Sunshine. And he was talking to me. Then about a week later, the same thing happened with a completely different person that I didn't even know very well. And then it happened 2 more times within the next 6 weeks. And I looked at that and I said, wow, there must be something about Sunshine that I'm going to adopt. And so I'm going to officially change my name on Facebook. And so I did. I changed it on Facebook. I changed it on LinkedIn. It's on our website. It's now everywhere. And I embody that name, and I absolutely love it.
Well, and Linda, I highly encourage you to consider changing it legally, because it's really not that complicated. And our name is our signature. If you think about it, our name is our signature, and our signature is the vibration or the emanation or the signal that we are sending out into the world. So I have also been called Sunshine, and I totally vote yes for you to go ahead and change it, because when you fully embody it across all the platforms, right, legally as well as socially, it's a different vibration that you're carrying. And everybody loves the sun. Who doesn't love the sun?
And I see Debbie's in the green room. She's like, yes, we're going to take a vote. the mayor is voting yes. She's voting yes. And everybody's actually a thumbs up. Okay, awesome. I get it. I'll look into that. I will look into that for sure. Thank you for that. Love it.
I love it. So I'm going to switch over to Linda. Linda's chapter is Fear Erases Anxious Reactions. And Linda,
faith erases.
I'm sorry. Faith erases, and that's her acronym for fear. And I've heard Linda tell her fear story numerous times, and she breaks through those fears when she's dealing with stuff. So my question for you, Linda, today is what are some fears that you're still dealing with, and some things that you're still struggle with to break through? And if that's something you would share with us.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think that COVID kind of did something with me related to fears. So what Sally's referring to is in 2015, I broke through one fear every single day for a year. I realized that fear was stopping me from living my life, and I was letting it control my life. So what's interesting is after I broke through all those fears, it's not that I don't have fear, because I'm still a human being. Fears still pop up, but it's how I deal with fear now that's completely different. Oh, that's just fear. I'm going to do this because I'm scared. So I've changed what fear means to me. But when COVID hit, it was interesting. Where my office is, I have 2 windows right in front of me. One of them faces a road over here, and the other one, I can see a freeway at the distance. And as I looked outside, it was probably about 2 weeks into COVID, and I'm sitting here, and I had this immense fear that washed over me, that this was going to be the rest of our lives stuck in our houses, because we had no idea what was going to happen. But I looked out there, and there were no cars on the freeway. There were no cars on the street. And I was like, how many other people are sitting in their house thinking the same thing that I'm thinking? How many of us are riddled with fear right now about this thing that we don't know anything about? How many of us are sitting there not going to go outside because we're afraid that if I go out into the air, that COVID is going to just capture me, right? And that was how I was feeling at that time. And so it's interesting, because then I had to squelch that, and I had to say, well, wait a minute. If this is the way it's going to be the rest of our lives, this is not going to control your life. And so really it's about me just tapping into my fears and saying, I have faith. Faith erases anxious reactions. This acronym that I came up with while I was breaking through a fear every day is because I realized that we can't have faith and fear in the same place. And so if I am experiencing fear, what does this mean? It means I'm not tapping into my faith. So this helps me to tap into my faith and I ask myself the question, how strong is your faith right now, Linda? And I ask it in the third person. How strong is your faith right now? Faith in yourself, faith in others in your circle, and faith in God. I believe in God, so faith in God. And then I tap into all three of those. And then now I say, okay, I'm going to do this because I'm scared. So to answer your question, Sally, it's interesting because I experience fear, but I don't experience it for very long because I don't allow fear to control my actions anymore.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I love that, and that is that whole mind shift and being able to shift our thoughts and shift our thinking. And, when those fear thoughts come up, is to be able to tap into that and recognize that we're having that reaction in our body, and then saying, okay, I'm not going to let this direct me. I'm not going to focus on this. I'm going to change my thinking. I'm going to change what I'm doing and make it different. So I love that. I love both of you for being part of this book and for inviting me along. And so, why don't we just one last word for those, Angel, how has this process been for you? I mean, you've right from the start. I mean, we worked on you I think it was last year at this time, we were working on the contract and putting this all together, and then getting all the authors together. And so why don't you just share a little bit about your process in doing this and what it's been like working with Linda and I and Action Takers Publishing.
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say is I have a dirty little secret myself. And my dirty little secret is that I am, wickedly smart. And because I'm wickedly smart, I'm really good at a lot of things, and just good enough to be dangerous, not good enough to be great. And one of my biggest challenges over the course of my life has been being able to ask for help and being able to allow support in, and more importantly, being able to develop relationships where I actually trust the other person to be able to show up with the same level of commitment and devotion and faith, right, that I show up in the world. I will admit I'm rare, as are all of the authors who were in this book. We are rare birds. We're not the only rare birds on the planet, and there are many people who are still waiting to be germinated. Let me be clear about that. But we're the rare birds that are out there actually on the court doing this. And so when Linda and I started our negotiation with one another, I tapped into a trustworthy network that I have been cultivating since COVID started. And in that trustworthy network, I was given some guidance from one of my mentors to take this process slow, like to not rush it. We don't need to have an anxious reaction, right? We don't need to cram it all in. We don't need to be chasing after making this happen. What we really needed to do was to come to an agreement with each other that was well constructed, well thought out, and measured in the process of creating that agreement. And I think because we were both very intentional and very mindful and willing to take as much time as it needed to take to be able to get to the agreement that we made with one another, because I'm bringing my brand, which I've worked for the last 3 years intensely to turn into a brand that's downloaded in 106 countries. We've won 8 awards. I'm not just bringing myself, I'm bringing this brand and everything that it stands for into partnership with your brand. And so for me, it has become, glaringly obvious that it was because of our willingness to be mindful and to ask as many questions as we could possibly come up with in the process of crafting the original agreement, that it allowed for this container to be built that was a container of integrity. And because it was a container of integrity, it became incredibly magnetic to the wickedly smart women of integrity who joined to be part of this process. And every single step of this process has been solid. Every single step of this, I have not felt for 1 second any like, you know, I mean, yeah, of course, we always have technical things happen, and sometimes we say the names wrong and stuff like that. But, you know, that stuff is just little. The container that we created is impeccable. And for me, that makes me want to play with you guys more.
And we are going to do that, aren't we?
We are.
We're working on that right now. Yeah, go ahead, Sally.
Now, I love the rare birds because, you know, I've gone through my life thinking everybody was like me.
Me too.
Me too.
And then you're like shocked as shit when somebody slaps you upside the head. Like, what happened?
Exactly. And it's like, wait a minute, I would never do. Why are they doing that? You know? So, yeah, I love that. So, you know, thank you so much, Angel, for being part of this, for sharing your vision with us, and for just all the light that you bring into this project. And so Linda, you know, some last words from you on this project and going forward working with Angel.
Yeah, definitely. Well, excited to, well, first of all, working on this project has been eye-opening, enlightening, and I've really enjoyed the process of working with Angel because as we were working on that contract, like Sally remembers, you know, I'm sure Angel remembers, and I'm mentioning this for a reason. So I want you to listen up. Okay, so when we started working on this contract, I was coming from a place of people pleaser. I had been a people pleaser my whole life. Like this was how I operated my life. Even though I broke through those fears, I still had my people pleaser tendency popping up. You know, it still pops up every once in a while, but I'm able to, like, you know, recognize it and say, you know what, it's okay. Thank you for being here. You can take a back seat right now. I'm in charge, right? And so it's interesting because coming to this, just the contracts have always been scary for me. When I started my business, I didn't do any contracts at all because I was scared if I did a contract and they didn't like the conditions of the contract that they wouldn't like me, AKA people pleaser. So this is exactly what happened by the time Angel came along. I was still in that place, but I was in that place of wanting to learn and grow and figure out how can I break through that. And so actually, you know, using Angel as an example for me was a great opportunity for me to learn how to not let the changes affect the way I think this person is going to think of me as a human being. So that was a tremendous, so many gifts that I got through this project. And that is one of them. And so Angel, thank you for that. And I know we had like our backs and forths and we really, really worked hard on it. And I thought I was like, is it ever going to be done? Like, are we ever going to come to an agreement? And we did. Why? Because we kept going and we never gave up, which is the title of one of our books coming up, by the way. So never give up. And so it was really about that process of tapping into myself and growing through this entire process of, you know, doing this book. So thank you for that. And I got to meet an ex-mayor. I mean, how cool is that? You know, I never thought I'd meet an ex-mayor before. So that was kind of cool. But I'd love to hear, you know, Angel's perspective of that, because this was something that was going on from both of our sides, you know, so I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, well, for me, as I said before, it was about, can I trust this person? You know, can I also have people pleaser? Come on, girl, you and I both came from families, backgrounds where it was dangerous to not people please. It was brutally, violently dangerous in my case. And I don't know how brutally and violently dangerous it was in your case. So people pleaser in me is deep as well. And for me, I came to the agreement process from a place of feeling empowered in what I was bringing to the table in terms of the brand, aware, like much more aware than I would have been 10 years ago or 15 years ago, aware that it wasn't about me. This wasn't about me personally at all. It was about the vision. It was about the brand. It was about the opportunity to give more wickedly smart women of a platform for, I could have just expanded the podcast, but I didn't want to expand the podcast. I want to give women multiple ways to share their voice. And writing is where I got started in the journey of being what I call the empowered messenger. And I think it's the place where those of us who've had our voices repressed, depressed, and suppressed, and have been overtaken by the people pleaser and been trained to be seen and not heard, like, we've got to give people baby steps to be able to come out and begin to express themselves. And so, your willingness to stay in it and not get triggered, or if you were triggered, you took care of it and didn't bring it to me, right? You didn't bring your triggers to me. I didn't bring my triggers to you. If either of us had any triggers, we were willing to be mature enough and supported in other ways enough to say, what's this actually about? What's this actually about? And what has more power? And what had more power for me was the vision of giving more women more opportunity to express themselves and share their stories. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I love about that, Angel, is that we both expressed that vulnerableness to each other, right? So we shared that we had that tendency. And what was cool about that, from my perspective at least, is because now it's out in the open. I got to say, okay, good. I know that we both experienced this sort of thing, the same things, somewhat similar in different areas. And so now I can come from it from a place of a different kind of compassion, empathy, and all of these different, things, loving kindness. Whereas, what could have happened, which didn't because of who we are, is we didn't take advantage of each other. We could have, one or the other could have been like, oh, awesome, I'm going to take advantage of this. So knowing that someone is a people pleaser is really an opportunity to really take advantage of them, and it's not a good place to be. It's not a place I want to be. It's not a people I want to hang out with. And so I'm glad that neither of us did that. We both just came to the understanding, and we were able to finalize the contract, get all the ladies into the book, and then move forward. And so it's been absolutely an amazing journey. And, it's not over. The people pleaser still shows its head every once in a while. And it's time for me, like when that happens, it's just time to address it and to keep moving forward and to not let it control. And I think that's one of the keys for me, is just the learning of not letting those things control my actions any longer,
Yeah. Well, and I think one last piece on this people pleaser thing is people pleasing is a reaction, right? And so part of what I learned in the process, because I'm like, let's take action, let's make it happen, let's go. What I mean? My circle of support was like, take all the time you need. And I was also positioned at that point in my own journey of recovery, where I got to choose whether or not I was pursuing this. I wasn't pursuing it as like, this is the magic thing that's going to make all the difference in the world. Kind of like, it wasn't like that at all. This was very much an intentional choice kind of situation. And the people pleaser, for me at least, if I'm starting to feel that come up, now what I'm doing for myself is, oh, I gotta like back away rather than react. I actually have to back away from this, slow everything down, and take care of whatever I need to take care of in myself. Am I hangry? Am I hungry, tired? Am I, triggered from something else that happened at the grocery store or whatever? What's actually going on here, and give myself space and back away and time and keep my mouth, shut, right? I actually work with a lot of guides. And when I finally felt like I had my voice, I was like, oh, I finally feel like I have my voice and I can speak and I can show up and I can be present and I can be seen and I can be on video and I can be heard around the world and all the things. The new guide that came in for me was Silent Mountain. I'm like, what? What? Silent Mountain? And so Silent Mountain helps me to like, okay, I don't want to react. I want to actually respond mindfully to whatever's happening here. And so, yeah, for me now, whenever I feel like I'm squished or I feel like I'm getting, and it's usually when I feel squished that the people pleaser comes out, like, oh, gotta do something right away, then that's the indication to me to slow down and go silent.
That's great. I love that. And I'm going to throw it back over to Sally because I have a tendency to like, this is Sally right now. Sally, you're up.
I just love this conversation, and I love the union between Wickedly Smart Women and Action Takers Publishing. And I think that, bringing this book to life has been just an awesome experience for both of you in this process and for the authors, and now going forward for the readers. So I'm going to just remind everyone to go over to the website to pick up the book and get your free gifts from the authors. And yeah, I don't know, Linda, what else you got?
Yeah, well, the last thing I wanted to end with, so thank you so much, Sally, for interviewing Angel and me. That was a lot of fun. I love it. I love it. And so I want to share that, for those who are sticking around to the end, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you went and purchased your book already, but we have our next book coming up, Wickedly Smart Women, and it is Channeling Wisdom, Creating Wealth, and Changing Worlds. That book is going to be a USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling book. So we are going to be looking for women for that book. That will have no more than 15 guests that we will be inviting into that book. So if you want to be part of that, go to our website, actiontakerspublishing.com/WSW. There's a link there for you to book a call, to get on book a call with me to learn more about the book, how you can be part of it, and how you can be part of what we're creating here between Wickedly Smart Women and Action Takers Publishing. And then lastly, Sally, talk about the launch party that's coming up at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 Eastern.
Well, one of the things when we first started doing these launches was I was like, we got to party with the authors afterwards. So I started doing these launch parties, and they're just so much fun. And it's just a way for you to get to know the authors, and for the authors to just celebrate the accomplishment of being in this book. So we're inviting everybody this time to come on to Zoom with us tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you just go to sallyonzoom.com, it'll take you right into my room, and we'll have some fun doing it. And you'll get a chance to maybe personally talk to the authors and meet them, and let's just celebrate this book together.
Yes, definitely. Angel, I'd love to hear some final words from you before we close for now, and then we come back to the launch party.
Well, again, gratitude is the currency of the universe, and currency is gratitude in action. So we definitely would like to have you buy the book today. If you're watching us live, if you're watching us on the replay, you can still buy the book, because the proceeds from this book are going to the Life is Good Playmakers Project. And we are so grateful to everyone who's already made this book a best-selling book, and all the people who are buying all day today and into the night to help our 17 amazing co-authors become #1 international bestsellers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you especially to you and Sally, Linda, for being for walking in partnership with Wickedly Smart Women and the Wickedly Smart Women brand.
Well, it's been our pleasure, and we look forward to future books because we have 2 coming up. The one I mentioned earlier is just one of them. We have another one. We're still finalizing the subtitle for that one, but check them out, because we've got a lot of great stuff going on. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate you. My name is Linda Sunshine, Linda Sunshine West, and I'm the founder and CEO of Action Takers Publishing, and we're looking forward to get your story out into the world, and we'll see you soon.
I kinda like